Hey everybody, it's Cristina from the DIY Musician podcast. This episode we interview Judy Stakee and Mike Meiers. I know not that Mike Meiers, but very awesome, amazing Mike Meiers. They're hosting the Hitmakers live online songwriting workshop on Sunday, April 21st, starting at 10 a.m. It's a really amazing songwriting experience, the whole day of just sessions, inspirational conversations. There's going to be some very major songwriters and artists that will be there as well, offering their guidance. So I highly recommend listening to the podcast and getting a taste of what that day will look like. So let's just go ahead and dive in.
You're listening
to the CD Baby
DIY
Musician Podcast.
Judy, Mike, thanks so much for joining the podcast. I gave a little bit of a brief intro about you, but will you give us just like a rundown of your background, Judy, starting with you?
Of course. I came out of the womb singing and dancing and followed that my whole entire life. Graduated from college and got into the music business. I was very, very fortunate. And I entered the door of music publishing, and stayed there for over 30 years in the traditional music industry as a music publisher, developing songwriters. I would go out and find them and sign them and develop them and then market them, which meant getting their songs out to producers and managers and acts and so forth to get them cut and get them placements. And then I would sign artists also and then develop them. I signed and developed Sheryl Crow, Michelle Branch, Joy Williams, Katy Perry. The list goes on. And then I started my own company, and then I do artist development with my own company now.
Wow. Well, first of all, thanks for developing those artists. Some of the best songs have come out of that whole legacy that you helped basically lift them up out of obscurity. So thank you. And then Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself.
How do you start after that?
I don't know. How do you follow up?
For me, there was, I like to think I was a person that never had a plan B. It was always plan A, which was just music. It was just like, I'm going to figure this out. And I'm not going to bore with all the different avenues that it took me, but eventually it led to me, using my guitar to connect with people, write really good songs that started to work for TV and film. And over that time, it branched into production, allowed me to get an Emmy, tons of placements, started my own company to help songwriters understand what's actually happening in music, how they can utilize their instruments to their advantage and write better songs. And if they want to do this for a living, they can.
One of the reasons why I wanted to have both of you on the podcast today, first of all, we're going to get into it. You're hosting an incredible songwriting workshop. We'll get to that. But before that, both of you have been really instrumental in helping artists develop their songwriting skills, whether it's through the platform that you spearheaded with Songwriting for Guitar or through your entire career legacy as a legend. Judy, you have helped artists find their voice, develop those songs, create something compelling. And Judy, we had you, I think maybe once or twice at the DIY Musician Conference. And every single time, I think, was it twice? It was twice. Yeah, because I remember the first time we had you, we had people asking for you back. Like it was a please get Judy Stakee back. Yeah. It was a big deal because there's something about when somebody takes the care to listen to you and to say, okay, yeah, I see what you're doing here. Let's work on this a little bit. There's something about that care that really makes people feel seen. And I think as songwriters, we're often so much in an insular situation. Like, I don't know about how you naturally write music, but for me, I cannot have anyone in the house. I have to have complete silence. Even if my husband is home and in another room, I can't do it. I got to be alone in my weird world where I can do weird stuff and throw everything out into the wall. But to be able to bounce those ideas off of somebody else, or to be able to just to have moments of, okay, well, before I go too far on this, what am I doing? I think that's excellent. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm excited to talk to you today. I sort of want to hear a little bit about the two of you in general. How did you come together? How did you meet? How did this start? How did this union of minds start?
Well, I'll go up to a certain point, and then Mike, you come in and tell yours, and then because
Okay.
we do it half and half here. So one of the things that I used to do at Warner Chapel, and I carried on to when I started my own company, is I put on songwriting retreats. I think it's really beneficial to go away to learn something, especially, I mean, at this, when you're older. In school, it was easy. So I put on these retreats where I take, a couple dozen songwriters away for a whole week. And Mike took one of my songwriting courses. Okay. So I'll stop there. So he was at one of my songwriting retreats, and you fill in your background.
I went to a songwriting retreat because kind of what you were just describing right there about being insular and being in your world. I've been doing lots of co-writing, but I felt like I was just going through so many different paths and avenues, and it was getting to a point where it was frustrating. And I stumbled across Judy, and how you described her, how she sees people and recognizes them and can speak in a way that's not condescending, but in, hey, here's what's working, here's what's not working. I saw that in the lives, and that connected to me. And I was like, I need to go to this retreat. Even if it meant like I'm going to have to share a room with somebody, in a bathroom with somebody, which is scary. I'm just like, it's not my girlfriend, it's someone else. But it was what I needed, and the info was valuable. And then at some point, I guess I worked up the chutzpah to just be like, you know what? I see maybe I could share, because at this point I'd been unlocking stuff with my guitar, and then Judy can take it from here. I went up to her and I was like, hello, nice to meet you. Can I teach this?
Yeah, he came
up
to
to me. Chutzpah.
He came up to me the second day and said, listen, he says, I'm a guitar teacher. He's like, I love what you're doing, because I think I could really help. And I was like, no. I said, all these most of these songwriters don't play an instrument. I said, that's one of the things about having a retreat, is that not every songwriter plays an instrument. So, and he said, well, I said, no. I said, this is about me. I said, thank you very much. And he started to walk away, and I said, wait a minute. I said, hold on. I said, what would you teach? And he said,
I was like, well, here are the three fundamental things that I would teach, regardless if you're, a guitarist or if you're just a lyricist. It's understanding these three elements. And if we walk through them, it's a great way for them to interact, understand the language, and not feel like they're, missing each other, but it's a line of communication. And if we go through that, I think they'll have a better understanding. And I think you'll be able to write more songs and get them finished quicker.
And I said, okay. I said, I'll give you 30 minutes. And so I carved out 30 minutes the next day, because my retreats I've got a curriculum, and everything's on, everything's on the minute. And then from then on, I give him an hour. I hire him, and he comes in every retreat, and he teaches an hour of the perspective of songwriting, from the perspective of a guitar teacher, of somebody who knows the music, of somebody who knows the theory. I know it. I was a music major at USC. I played the piano for 13 years. I am not a musician. I know 4 chords, and that's about it. So so that's kind of how we came together and decided to even do something. Is that all of a sudden it was like, I take care of the story, the lyric. How do you become a great storyteller with music and your lyrics? But I come from the perspective of the lyrics and the story with music, and he comes from the perspective of the music, the theory, the integration of that, and he knows lyrics. So we, when you combine them, it's like you get the male, the female, the add the salt and pepper, the yin and the yang, all of it. It's like go together.
Mike, I would say that takes cojones, 100%. But
by the way.
I think it's a beautiful marriage there, because like you said, not every songwriter plays an instrument. And that actually, to me, sort of blows my mind sometimes, because as a songwriter, like, I don't even know how I would start without an instrument, or how I would take that and develop it. It requires you have to collaborate. So it takes an extra level of being less insular, I think, to be able that you have a greater collaboration skill, I believe, as a songwriter that doesn't play an instrument than than one that does.
Yeah.
Because it, like I said, it is so easy to be like, this is my song, I'm writing it, I'm the one completely developing it, I'll take it to the band, I'll tell them what to play, and then they'll play it, and like
Yeah.
that is absolutely what younger versions of most songwriters, I think, and myself included, definitely did. We were like, I own this, I want the credit, etc. But it takes like this level of being able to be open and saying, okay, yes, so this is what I have lyrically, this is the mood, this is the story I'm telling, which I know is very much your world. And then Mike, I imagine that you're also helping artists develop, like, what is the dynamics of the song, what is the build, what is the tension that we're creating, where does the song need space, those sorts of things, right?
Oh yeah, you have great lyrics, you have great melody, but I don't believe it with the chords that you're playing.
Right.
Like, and so let's fix that. Let's develop that. Let's actually enhance. Great music enhances your lyric, and great music and the right chords amplify and lift your melody. They all three have to it's that beautiful intertwining. They all work together. Neither one is greater or less than the other.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say are like sort of the top 5 things that you would work on with somebody when it comes, let's say they don't play an instrument, they're coming to you, they want to work on the dynamics of the song, but they don't have something to hold to make that happen. Like, how does that work?
So if they come to me as a lyricist and they got this song and they're like, there's something not right about this, the first thing I listen to are the voicings. Like, what type of voicing are you using? Are you using, is it like cowboy chords just slapped over, but it's a pop song? And I'm like, that doesn't work. I listen to, well, let's take a look. Is there varied strumming patterns? And are your patterns indicating, as you said, the dynamics? Is it guiding me through? Like, if I listen to just the instrumental, can I tell all the sections of your song? Or am I just like, they all kind of mesh together and they just feel kind of like a blob? If I just take away the music and, take away the melody, can I tell? The next part is, are you doing just small techniques to keep the listener engaged? It could be percussive muting. I think Ed Sheeran is a great example of this. This is why he can take his guitar and tour arenas with just himself and nobody else and just do it well. On top of that, I'm looking too at the types of chords. So if we go back to voicings, if you're talking about something that's deeply vulnerable, are the chord choicings that we're using indicating vulnerability? Or does it feel slightly lighthearted? Does it feel very casual? Because then suddenly it's like, oh, it's fighting against what you're telling me. And that's where I'm feeling that pull and that tension. So there's lots of different things that we could go for a non-music person to look at, so that they could go to someone and be like, hey, can we take a look at these elements, as opposed to being like, I'm not sure, but it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't have to know music theory to fully understand all of those things, but it is important to sometimes just learn some of the rules to be able to break them. So, like, if you do want to write an upbeat song that's existentially depressing, that works, but you have to learn how to make that work, right? Like, you have to learn how to make that pop song that's like, I want to die, whatever.
Exactly.
To make it work. But in order to make it work, you have to sort of know some of the fundamental basics of how to do that, how to build suspense, or how to build an emotion through the musicality of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's because when you start out, if your pure goal is just to make for you, fine. Enjoy that, enjoy the rules. The moment you start thinking about, like, I'm going to play this for someone, I want to make a dollar amount, the rules have just changed just a little bit, because there's a whole set. I like to think of them as guardrails. It's not necessarily that it's like strict rules, but the guardrails are meant to protect you and give you a guide. If you start to veer off, you're going to hear that sound like, oh, let's get back on the road. It can be twisty, it can be turny, it could be straight, it could be narrow, it could be small. The guardrails are just there to just keep you in line.
Do you find, both of you, do you find that artists tend to have, like, sort of, especially earlier on in their songwriting journey, a very, very exploratory and, like, freeing phase of their songwriting, and then as they start to, like, maybe develop themselves, they almost start to pigeonhole based on what people have gravitated towards of their music and then like get stuck? Or do you think that, yeah, just curious, because you've had a lot of
It's interesting that you say that, is that I have more the opposite.
oh, interesting.
I have more the writers who come in who are trying to be everybody else. They're just trying to copy everybody else. And it's harder for them. Like their goal is to find their voice. So
Yeah.
it's this chatter and chatter and chatter of everything out here. And they're soaking and soaking things up, where they, where my job is to get all of that noise out of the way so they can see who they are.
Gosh, it must have been pretty challenging too when you were developing artists under a label or under like a publishing house, because there's so many cooks in the kitchen trying to determine what that artist should be or sound like, right?
Yes, and
Yes,
one,
and
one of the yes, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. However, I was in a wonderful position in that I signed a lot of the artists that I worked with before they had a record deal, before
Nice.
there were too many cooks in the kitchen. So I gained their trust at the very beginning. They trusted me as their mirror. I mean, I worked with Sheryl for a year before she got her record deal. But when she got off the tour with Michael Jackson, and then so all we did was work together. So when I would say to her, I love this verse, but I'm not crazy about the chorus, or whatever critique I had, she actually listened to me, and she'd come back and go, what about this? What about this? What about this? She was an A+ student, as I always said.
Yeah.
Me, so it was easier. Yeah, it's much harder when you are dealing with everybody else.
Well, and going back to what you were saying about trying to sound like other people, I'm just because we're on Sheryl, you go on tour with Michael Jackson. How do you not come back and start making dance hits? You know, how do you not come back and get completely influenced by, the king of pop and try to write? Like, I find that if I'm on tour with a certain artist, or if I've been collaborating with someone, or if I've been hearing something in my house too much, like I start writing like that a little bit. And how do you sort of like navigate back and are like, okay, how do we integrate this into your naturalistic songwriting style?
I'll tell you a little story. So Sheryl was on the tour with Michael Jackson. She had a week off. She came back to LA, and Robert Kraft, who was a producer, he also ran 20th Century Fox Music. He's amazing. He called me. He was producing Bruce Willis and Johnny Mathis at the time, and Sheryl was doing some backup. Robert calls me up and says, this woman is, she's an amazing singer. She's out with Michael Jackson. You should meet with her. She wants to do her own record. And so I met them at this Thai restaurant, and Sheryl walks in, and she has got a flowered little dress down to her ankles and little tennis shoes, and the hair is all done, and she looked like one of my sorority sisters. And I went, that's interesting. And we talked a lot, and she came back to the office, and I played her songs, and the stuff that she gravitated towards was not the pop rock. That's what everybody wanted her to do. It's what everyone expected her to do. She was writing with other people on the road, and that's what she kind of came back with. But to me, she said, this is what I want to do. And I was like, okay, great. And so it was like, don't take any more backup gigs. It's like, stop writing. Let's write with these people. It's like, so on your own. Like, I encouraged and coached her and motivated her to find her own voice. I mean, she came back with notebooks of lyrics, and they were just like, oh, I mean, I never really had to teach, or educate her on songwriting. She just kind of came out like that. It was more editing with Sheryl. It was more, I like that verse, the chorus doesn't hit, something's going on, figure that out type of thing. But she's quick. I mean, she's a wonderful writer, a great communicator.
Well, and we live in this era too, where every style of music is available at our disposal. You go on any platform and you can find like a mix of a playlist that has everything on it that you could possibly ever imagine. And it's so easy to get influenced. It's also so easy, I think, as we're starting out as earlier songwriters, to want to do everything all at once, to say, hey, I am jazz, I'm soul, I'm rock, I'm pop, and like having to define yourself or define that sound. I mean, all of those things can be really challenging, which is where like guides like you really come into the fold and can really help artists sort of say, okay, yes, you are everything. You're perfect. You're wonderful. But like, what is this voice that's standing out in the midst of all of this? Like, what is your light? What is your, yeah. So I find that to be really admirable that you both sort of do this, which is what we're going to lead into, talking a bit about an exciting thing you're putting together, which is Hitmakers Live, on Sunday, April 21st at 10 a.m. Pacific, online. Tell us about that.
Well, at this point, we were doing things independently. I was coming into Judy's retreats, and then Judy was coming into my courses. And there's also a period where we were just kind of swapping back and forth the same clients, where it was like, it made sense that we eventually should build something and create something together. Especially from how Judy teaches and how I teach. The best way to describe, I feel, it's recognizing what they have and developing clear frameworks so that can develop a process and a system, a process for editing, a process for understanding their instrument, and not feeling confident and not allowing outside voices, or I saw this to influence how they're doing it, but to have a clear framework. And that's why Hitmakers was created. And we're launching with this live event that's completely free to not only inspire songwriters and hear great stories from someone like Sheryl Crow, who will be there to talk. Yes, I know. When I say that, people are like, is she actually going to be there? I'm like, yes, the real in person. And you're going to hear, it's exciting to hear her story. We're actually going to be doing some critiques live. We're going to be doing real teaching. This isn't a fluff thing. That's the thing that I think is so important, because Judy and I do. There's one thing I think we both despise. It's fluff, where they give, a little like thought, but no meat. No, even though I'm a vegetarian, the meat of teaching.
I think what Mike and I bring, and what prompted me to even, do this, is that I believe that Mike and I are really good teachers. And I believe that there are, everybody out there is doing it with such great intention, of, trying to give information and trying to give their wisdom and trying to give, their story to inspire everyone else. But not everyone's a great teacher. So that's one of the things, is what Mike was saying, is that, even on this live event, it's not just about like, oh, we've got Sheryl and we've got some other people coming, and, but it's we want to give them tools, and we want to give them philosophies, and we want to give them, some really good processes to take with them, or a map, I should say, a really good map, so that they can leave and know what the next steps are. Because that's
amazing.
Songwriters, we have to treat songwriters like we would treat somebody who's going to cooking school or an architect school or something. We have to give them the space in order to be able to be free to fall down and get back up, and fall down and get back up. Because songwriters have to write a song every day. So they fall down every day, at least 10 times a day. And so it's that getting back, it's falling down and getting back up. You got to get them used to that,
Yes.
I always have ice cream at the very end. When I get back up, I fall down, ice cream. Okay, I'll get back up again, But you got to...
Yeah, you have to learn resiliency for sure.
Resiliency. And then you have to have tools. You have to have the space. You have to put the time into it. And then you have to have the tools in order to make your product, in order to create your life for the rest of your life. Doctors don't get to, they don't go to medical school and become a doctor and then that's it. They're taking classes till the day they die. So is an architect, so is a plumber, so is a shoeman. And every single, all of our jobs out there are not, oh, you learn how to be a mother, there you go, that's it.
Yeah.
These are the don't have anything else.
All these careers, like you said, like a doctor doesn't spend every single day fighting against criticism or getting feedback or being told why what you're doing isn't correct or why what you're doing isn't going to sell or why what you're doing it needs work. Like you go to work and you're a doctor and you're an expert and that's that. And like there's, I think that being an artist takes us a very underrated amount of self resiliency and an ability to have also like an absorbent amount of to be able to take in feedback and not take it personally when like it is also so personal, right? Like even if you are a songwriter writing music for other artists, or you're writing a song that this relates to me in some way, but really this is like, it's not about my innermost existentialism. Like it still requires a bit of yourself, no matter what. You're always putting something in there, right? So like to be able to take feedback, to be able to rework ideas, I think that like that is a very underrated skill that we all have as artists that most careers don't require.
You're right. And
it's tough.
Yeah.
But I call myself this, and Mike's going to start calling himself the same thing, is that I said we're good teachers. I said, but we're also really good mirrors. That's what's really important to have in your life also, is a really good mirror, somebody who stands in front of you and will tell you those jeans do not look good on you. You cannot see from behind. I'm sure my husband did the same. I'm sure your husband's the same way. It's like, no. I can see the back. You can't,
Right.
You need a good mirror that you trust so that you can get better. That's how we all got as kids, is that we had a coach, we had a teacher, we had all these things around us all the time to grow us. And so hence, I mean, for me, it's just, it's what I love. It's my passion.
Maybe this is a subject for another time, but I do feel that at a certain point in the last few years, maybe the last decade or so, we haven't really enjoyed, or we really haven't been accepting a mirror as often as we should. I think a lot of society is sort of like, very combative against any sort of criticism in that way. And again, I don't use criticism as a bad word. I actually think it's a really good word. Feedback is another way to say it, but I grew up with a theater background as well as music. And so you have a director, you have somebody that sees you do the work and then says, let's redo this. And so like, you have to be able to take feedback in order to, I think in all areas you should, but if you are an artist, you probably innately already have the skill built in.
I always say that my clients is that, it's like the feedback, the critique is that this is where you learn. You mess up, you burn the toast. This is where you learn,
I think a mirror too is very good at reminding you the bigger picture, because as an artist, sometimes we're so ingrained in the moment. We feel the feel, and it's heightened even more to have somebody go, listen, here's what's working. This is what needs adjusted. And when that mirror allows you, and that person allows you to give you the space to start to feel comfortable, it ends up being a ripple effect, because then that artist, when they have a co-write, is going to learn the situation to allow their other co-write to feel comfortable, to feel like they can deliver more, that they can give feedback, that they can get that. And if we can end up doing that and create that ripple effect, that's where you start to have, I think, great creativity.
Absolutely. And so I want to ask who this event in particular is for. Is this for the beginner lyricist? Is this for somebody who's been touring for 30 years? Like, who is this for?
This is for both of those. If you're just starting songwriting, this is for you, because to me, to hear stories on what's working, what's not working, to get some framework early on, absolutely. And if you are someone that's been doing this for a while and you're absolutely happy, content, cool, come. But if you're feeling there's always a little bit more, that there's another level, and there is with songwriting. That's what's wonderful about it. There's not like a mountaintop where it's like, boom, I made it. It's just like, this is it. It's just another level. And if you're ready for the next level, this is the place to be. And that's the space that we're creating. And that's what's so exciting, to allow and facilitate that, because that's where the good conversations, the great relationships, I like to say ahas of like, I need to be here. That's the whole point of this.
Yeah.
I imagine too that there's quite a community, especially amongst our listeners of the DIY musician community, a lot of artists that that have maybe been doing this for a really long time, but like you said, like it takes a level of resiliency to be able to do this every day. I mean, it is like in so many regards, songwriting it's going to work. Even when a lot of us started it out as like a creative outlet. And so I'm sure there's plenty of artists out there that have maybe hit a wall or haven't picked up the guitar in maybe 6 months, or haven't unpacked their keyboard because they just know like, oh, that means I'm going to have to go to work and I'm going to have to put myself in there. And so I imagine this is a really great kick in the ass for those people to go like, let's boot camp you out of that rut, babe. Let's get your head back in the game and back into yourself, because it requires you like honoring yourself to be able to show up to do this, right?
Oh, hell yeah. Like I'm going to say hell yeah to that, because yes, we're going to have people like Sheryl Crow. You're going to have great stories. You're going to hear great stories from people that are at different levels. Like for instance, Christine Merritt, who both Judy and I have coached. She won American Songwriters Song of the Year. Jackie, who we both attended Judy's retreat. She's been a client of mine. She got this year. It was for Grammy consideration. She is still in the beginnings. I've seen her low points. I've seen her frustrated. Judy's seen her frustrated. You're going to hear stories of people that are just, they're just getting their foot in the door, but good things are happening because they're putting in the work, because they're willing to be vulnerable, because they're willing to go in front of a mirror and be like, what do I need to do? Those are going to be really cool stories to hear. And I think for someone who is in that rut, because that's when I met Judy. I was in a rut and I was like, where the hell am I going to go? I found like that momentum and that energy to be like, I'm glad I did this, because it gave me a whole new perspective and a whole bunch of energy to push through.
And I'm sure even the most successful songwriters you've ever worked with have gone through even long periods of this, right, Judy? Like this is a thing. This is like an unfortunate dilemma of the artist.
Absolutely, because you're asking someone to open up their hearts and be vulnerable in positive and, all the positive to the negative, the love to the hate, but you're vulnerable every single day, all day, every year. That's their and so it's, you close, you got to open, you close, you got to open. And see, for me, it's like, I cannot imagine a world without music. I cannot imagine a world without songs. It's very rare. I don't have music going on now, but otherwise, if I'm working, there's still some kind of music going on. And for me, it's like, I want to inspire and motivate and nurture songwriters so that they will never stop doing their job. I include myself. I have a song on Spotify. I am a songwriter. I don't do it full time, but I am in the ranks. But I can't imagine a world without them. So whatever I have to do, whatever Mike has to do, I'm including him in this. It's like, this is what we want to do. So we're doing this live event so that it's come one and come all. And if you just want to have a good time and be entertained, I promise you I'm very entertaining. I have lots of good things to say. And it's valuable. It's like like I said, we love our jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've seen it a lot. Everybody goes through it and says, I cannot write. I'll never write again. And then all of a sudden it's like Joy Williams, who's part of the Civil Wars. That's her. I mean, she made Christian albums before that. And that's when I signed her. And I signed her and she said she never wanted to sing again. She just wanted to write for other people. She was vocal producing for some acts. And I was like, wink, wink. Okay, fine. And started putting it with different people. And she was overseas traveling, and I put her with people over there, and she came back and she met John Paul at a writer's retreat, and that was it, and all of a sudden she found her voice again. So you never really lose it. It's hard. It's hard. And you have to honor the fact that you may need to just like sit out for a few minutes. It's okay.
Or that your voice has changed, or that your story has changed. Like maybe who you were, I mean, I saw Joy actually in 2004, I think, or 2005, when she was still very much in that like Christian world. And she evolved way out of of who she was in 2004, right? Like she's absolutely a different songwriter.
Totally.
We go through phases in our lives where, and that's all, I mean, that's all you, babe, but we go through phases in our lives where, you know, who we were last month may not resonate anymore, or who we were in the last album we put out in 2020 is not the same voice. And it's sometimes hard to remember that it's okay to take a beat. Like it is okay to take a beat to reevaluate who you are, but just like don't completely give up, right?
Well, one of the things that not that I have to remember because it's part of it, is that I'm dealing with human beings here.
Mm-hmm.
Not just about go make your song better, go make the chorus better, it's what were you trying to say? Is that something you really wanted to say? Is that what you feel? Well, tell me what you really felt. Tell me what you really wanted to say. You know, it's through the questions, it's through the listening where you can get to that deeper layer.
Absolutely. I did want to ask, you know, what should a songwriter sort of expect from this event? Like what does the day look like?
You see, what's exciting about it is it's, you know, you have someone like Sheryl that we're going to have time where you're going to hear the story. You're going to hear the beginnings of like her songwriting journey and how now she views all of that and just how she's used it to span, I mean, now to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is amazing. Clients of ours that you're going to hear their journeys of just starting out. I bring her up a lot, but Cristina Merritt, she's very brand new to this. So brand new to this, but she has transformed because she's been willing to just like sit in that space of being uncomfortable and being pulled to different areas. We're going to take your songs and we are going to give feedback. We're going to have a teaching moment where Judy's going to go through her kind of like methodology. I'm going to go through mine. So what's exciting about this to me is I go to events because I search for aha moments. And what's hard is there's a certain thing that speaks to everyone differently. And I remember just coming back from like Judy's retreat or events that I've gone where my notebook is filled with just like, it seems like gibberish, but it's all my moments of that speaks to me. Wow. And so I'm excited because regardless of where you are, there's going to be different moments, just like how we have different moments as human beings and we speak differently. Certain parts are just going to resonate and it's going to be the thing that you need to hear and the thing that you need to get to that next step, that next level of your songwriting, that next level of creation.
So the day kind of looks like that, you know, we'll start, but Mike will like take, you know, a certain amount of time and do teachings, and then I'll do teachings and all that. And then we'll have a guest, and then we'll come back on and do more, and then we'll have guests. And so we have guests interspersed with the teachings and throughout the day.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. I'm definitely going to be attending, just so you know. I'm one of those people that needs a kick in the ass.
We all need that. We all need it. Or
I think, like, personally, I mean, I don't need to talk about myself, but like, you know, work on an album sometimes for way too long. For me, it's like I will work on it for over a year, you know, just trying to write the right story. And so then I get overwhelmed and I find procrastination. I'm just saying this because I do think it's relatable that we can all sort of do this where we say, next time, I swear I'm going to make this album and it's going to come out next year. And then it doesn't. 4 years later, you still don't have anything. So I think that there's merit to being able to say, yep, it's time to get yourself back up. It's time to get yourself in the headspace of a professional songwriter again. And also to recognize, like, you're not just talking about songwriters who are writing for themselves. You're also talking to songwriters who are co-writers, who are collaborators, who are doing this to make you know, sync opportunities, or who are doing this for publishing deals. Like there is a vast range of people that will benefit from this event, and I'm really excited to see. And hopefully, there's like a network. There's networking, right? Like of
Oh, absolutely.
How people will meet each other.
Happy to meet each other. And I think that's an important thing that you touched on. Is the one thing we also want to cover is the opportunity. Because I think the biggest myths are that, there's not a lot of opportunity for songwriters. And it's like, really? I think this is the best time to be a songwriter. This is absolutely, it's,
Are you kidding? Like, what if the whole world is falling apart? We need to be able to talk about it in some way.
Exactly. It's just like, if you're willing to show up, I guarantee there's going to be lots of opportunity for people that are willing to show up.
Hmm. Well, I'm excited. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about all these things. I could talk to you for hours, I think. I have so many questions.
We could talk for hours too.
Yeah.
So.
I have so many questions. I have so many things I want to ask you, but I think I'm going to save all of that for your event, Hitmakers Live, April 21st, Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific, online. I will put the link down below, but will you tell everyone just briefly like how to register?
Sure. If you just go to hitmakerslive.com, you can register right there. You can sign up and you can reserve your spot. It's completely free. You just got to show up with an open mind and be ready to dig in.
Thank you for making it free. I don't know how you did that. That as an event organizer, I commend you. For those of you that are listening that have absolutely no idea how events work, a free event is a gift. And you should you should absolutely be attending and taking advantage of it, because nothing is free for the organizer of the event. So, just know that. So I think that's incredible. Thank you so much for creating this opportunity. And I really believe that artists are going to get a lot out of this. So if you do attend this event, and you heard about it from here, or you are listening to this now, please let us know how it went for you. podcast@cdbabypodcast.com. I want to hear it, or add it to the comments of the video on YouTube. But yeah, I want to hear feedback. I want to hear how it went, what your experiences were like. And yeah, but thank you both so much.
No,
You're
thanks for
welcome.
having us.
You're welcome.